What's up? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I want to say Merry Christmas first and foremost. Happy holidays and all that stuff. Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Atheist Day, whatever you celebrate. I love you. I hope that these holidays are good for you. Quick shout out, Elementary Genocide, filmed by Raheem Shabazz. I was actually in this film. They had a lot of great people in the film. Dr. Umar Johnson was in the film as well. Who I think is just a great orator. Even though we don't agree, I want to make sure people know that I don't have any animosity toward him. I never will. Now, here's something I want to hit on real quick. I was watching this Huff Post live thing where R. Kelly was on there talking to a lady. I don't remember her name. Not because her name's not important, but because I just don't have it in front of me. But anyway, I remember watching this interview. And I had a few thoughts that kind of came through my mind as I was watching and afterward. As a lot of people know, R. Kelly got on there and he started getting asked questions about these allegations of what he's done to young women over many years. I do believe that R. Kelly is guilty of many of these things. I feel like the brother has a problem. You know, do I hate him? Not particularly, but I do hate the fact that people seem to have let him off the hook for a long time because he sings well. You know, if a Negro sings well, then everybody's like, go, go, go. But as a father of daughters, I'm thinking about all the girls, the young girls, many of whom didn't know what they were getting into, who were kind of left in his trail, perhaps of deception, manipulation, or whatever the case may be. And I don't care you can go do the Bill Cosby argument that, well, he was never convicted and blah, 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 blah. Well, number one, not guilty is not the same as innocent. And then number two, there's a videotape. And number three, there's just so much. I mean, going all the way back to Aaliyah, people, had issues with that way back in the day. The brother probably does have an issue. He does have a problem. And I think our denial of that problem is a huge problem too. That shows that our mental illness is in sync with his mental illness, where we have a community where we allow certain men to get away with horrible things because they have talent or a little bit of money. If you got money and talent and power in the black community, unfortunately, you can get away with things that you should never get away with. Now, with that being said, I watched this interview, and my first thought that went through my mind is, who's R. Kelly's manager, and why did they tell him to even go on Huff Post Live? I mean, that part I didn't get. I mean, that interview, you're talking about it. It's not like his BET interview he did after the whole thing came out with the videotape. BET was friendly to R. Kelly. They wanted to build R. Kelly. I don't know what kind of deal they had with him, but I felt that there was corruption occurring when BET spoke to him after the initial allegations with the videotape and all that back in the day. In this case, I said Huff Post, they're going to eat him alive. I mean, Huff Post tends to do pretty intelligent interviews. Also, they are heavy on the liberal feminist agenda. You can't really work for Huffington Post on that level unless you are in alignment with I'm talking about lockstep alignment with the feminists, especially even extreme feminists, who are every bit as bad as some of the worst people in the black community. I'm talking about in terms of what they've done to destroy the psyches of black people, and also with even the most extreme elements of the LGBT community. Now, we know that women's rights matter. Absolutely. I have daughters. We know that gay rights matter. Absolutely. But when you see white folks playing political football going back and forth, they get crazy with it. They get ridiculous. They get to the point where they try to destroy you if you don't agree with every single thing that they say. They are not in favor of freedom of speech. There's no such thing as that anymore. They will attack the hell out of you if you say one or two things that is not in complete agreement with what they say. And it becomes a very kind of nasty bullying kind of environment. So I said, R. Kelly's the wrong guy to be even trying to walk up in that spot. I wouldn't do interviews with Huff Post. I stopped doing interviews with Huff Post Live a long time ago. I'll talk to my friend Marc, Lamont Hill, not because we agree. Marc and I, we've talked about this feminist, this liberal thing a lot. And I've told him in private and public, I said, brother, I think you need to understand where you come from. You're a black man first. Like, make that a top priority and then become a feminist after that. It does not mean you can't support women's rights. You got a daughter. Of course you want people to treat your daughter with respect. But don't you see what these people are doing to our community? Do you see how they're sort of positioning the black man as the mortal enemy of all female progress anywhere? White women, they can just be nasty toward black men, really nasty toward black men. Most black males I know, when they work in work environments, when they're in working environments with white females, they have huge conflicts because they think we're a bunch of Neanderthal gorillas who don't respect women or don't respect anybody. And I'm not a fan of that. That pisses me off too. So I didn't like that interview, and when I saw him on there, I was like, oh, well, maybe Marc's interviewing him. But I remember Marc had left Huff Post. And I said, oh, because, Marc is their resident Negro for a long time. I mean, let's just be real. I mean, it was a great gig for him. Marc is an intelligent guy, very charismatic, very sharp. But, I mean, I didn't understand. I remember watching thinking, why does he interview every black person that comes on Huffington Post? Like, are they scared? Are they scared to interview black people? Like, what's the deal? So at least, the black people are being interviewed by everybody now, I guess. I guess they haven't found another black person to do all the black interviews. But and that to me is reflective of what you see in a lot of institutions, even liberal ones, is this sort of very interesting marginalization that can occur with black people. First and foremost, you're sort of expected to be in alignment with their agenda because liberals they feel that black people owe them a debt of gratitude because they're like, well, we need your votes, we need your political support, and remember, we helped you during the civil rights movement, we helped you with this, this, and this, so you owe us. We are your better pimp. We are your new pimp, and we're going to treat you well, so you need to do what we tell you. So you have to be in alignment with their agenda. Then number two, sometimes there can be kind of like this very interesting marginalization that occurs as a result of this white paternalism over black people, where they kind of feel like, hey, we'll let black people in because we're liberal and we're into like different people, but we still want the black people kind of over there because we really don't understand them, and some of them, we're just not comfortable with everything that happens in the black community, and we want to scold them like children. Like when we see the black church not in alignment with our gay agenda, we're going to come in there, we're going to talk about them like they're the most ignorant, pack of Neanderthals to ever walk the face of the earth, because they're clearly backward. So we need to get Negroes that are going to go into the black church and tell them just how backward that their thinking is, so that they can think like us. Well, I'm sorry, black people have sovereignty. Sovereignty means that we decide our agenda, we decide what we think, we decide who we're going to be, and we're not going to let you dictate the agenda for who we are going to be as a people. And so if you want to know why people like me don't really fit into those kinds of environments, that's why. Because I told them, look, I can agree with some of the things you say, but I'm not going to align with everything you tell me to do. If you tell me to go hate a certain politician because he's a scary Republican, no, I'm not going to do that just because you told me to. If you told me to love a politician because they're a Democrat, no, I'm not going to do that either. I think both of y'all full of shit. Because we know that it's a bunch of Harvard, Yale graduates trying to maintain their power in the American aristocracy. That's why most of the Supreme Court justices, every single one of them, attended Harvard or Yale at some point in their career. So anyway, going back, let's get back to the point here. R. Kelly. All right. So R. Kelly's in this interview, and I'm thinking, why is he on Huffington Post? Who's this person interviewing him? Why isn't it Marc? Oh, that's right. Marc quit. Marc left. I'm sure he's doing great things. Marc's always doing well. And then, she's asking these questions that I think were reasonable questions. I think R. Kelly, he freaked out. I think that he shouldn't have been there, but given that he's there, he should have at least been cooler about the questions. I mean, brother, look, this stuff's been out there for a long time. You really think they're not going to ask you about this? I think R. Kelly should be asked about these things because I believe R. Kelly, I do believe he's a predator. I believe R. Kelly has hurt a lot of people. And we can't forget about these young women who've been hurt because he can sing. I mean, that pisses me off. I remember one time I was in it was about maybe, I don't remember how many years ago, but I was in the bathroom at a Hyatt hotel in Chicago. And one of the program directors or head people at one of the big radio stations in Chicago, and we were talking about the R. Kelly thing. And it was right after the R. Kelly thing happened, and I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "Yeah, a lot of radio stations won't even play his music now." I said, "But I noticed that your station just started playing him again." And he said, "Yeah, well, it's bad. The allegations are bad, but he is talented." And I remember thinking, so you mean the fact that he's talented is making you think that it's okay to overlook the fact that he might have molested little girls? I mean, that's not cool, man. Like, you can't think that way. So I think R. Kelly, if I was R. Kelly, I wouldn't have been in the interview. But if you're in the interview, do it right. I think that the lady's questions were fine. But at the same time, I think that they were reflective of the overall judgmental nature that extreme feminists have when it comes toward black men. And I think that's the sticking point. So you have black people that feel stuck. They feel like, well, gosh, if I don't support R. Kelly, then I'm not down for the cause. People gonna call me an Uncle Tom, blah blah blah. But at the same time, if I do support R. Kelly, then then I'm supporting a guy who might have hurt a bunch of little girls. And I think it's a lot like having your enemy attack your other enemy, and then you having to pick sides. When really you really could say fuck both of you. You really could. You really could say, okay, R. Kelly, we know you're screwed up, and those questions that woman asked were legitimate questions, but really she shouldn't be asking you those questions. We as a community should be asking you those questions. When you have your enemy's enemy, going after somebody in your community. And I do consider R. Kelly to be an enemy of the black community in the sense that he's a man that's been allowed to carry this mental illness for many years and hurt a lot of people without consequence because he can sing. I don't think people would be as patient with him if he wasn't getting them to step in the name of love and all this stuff. And I think black folks got to think about that. You can't worship entertainers to the point where you don't question their behavior if they're doing something that's harmful to young children. But at the same time, I do see it I really see it as a situation where this man needs help, and he's not going to get help if you keep elevating him and making him to a king, and giving him and empowering him to continue to do what he's doing. That's not cool. But I really think that the question should be asked, but that person on Huffington Post, I wasn't comfortable with her asking those questions because I felt that there's always this sort of very general disdain for black men that she and other people like her tend to have. I also don't really see them being equally diligent toward white people who are in the same boat. I mean, Woody Allen, we know about Woody Allen. And then I'm also wondering, I'd like for them to go invite Charlie Sheen onto Huffington Post and say, okay, Charlie, you've been running around here with HIV, sleeping with a new woman every week. How many women have you infected in the course of hiding your HIV? How many lives have you ruined in the course of this? I would like for them to go and get that guy who was he was affiliated with the XMen film actually, who was accused by young boys of holding pedophile parties in Hollywood. Go look him up. I gotta go find his name. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to get it wrong. But yeah, there was a big Hollywood director who was connected with pedophile parties. I mean, you got a whole lot of pedophiles in Hollywood. I'm talking about boatloads of gay men fucking little boys, and you ain't saying shit about it. You're not saying a word about that. So this does not let R. Kelly off the hook. Absolutely not. But I'm just so curious why they won't go after them as well. That's where the racism comes into play. It's when you say to the black man, oh, you are a bad boy because you stole a candy bar. But you had 10 white guys walk in to steal the same damn candy bar and you didn't say nothing. So that's the part I think that's a concern. And I really think, if I were talking to Marc, and I talk to Marc sometimes, and and I respect him. I'll say this to him, in person or public, private, whatever. But I would say to Marc, as you're running to defend the white feminists on these issues, you can't be one-sided on something like this. You have to be able to have objective analysis. If you can't criticize the white feminist establishment, then that pretty much says that you are beholden to them. If you can't, and so what I will say is this: if you want to analyze every single word that I've said, understand this. I'll criticize the hell out of R. Kelly. R. Kelly come up in my house, get close to my daughter, you're getting your ass kicked. That's what you do to young girls is unacceptable, and that will never ever change. Anybody who thinks that's acceptable needs to get their head checked, or you need to re-examine the facts. Be rational about this. But at the same time, these feminist groups that somehow want to demonize black men at every turn and sometimes utilize other black men to get them to attack other black men because they want them to pursue a certain agenda without any sort of consideration for alternative points of view, they can go to hell too, because that's wrong. Black men are being oppressed at every corner. And I could not help but to feel that as this lady was attacking R. Kelly, she wasn't just going after R. Kelly. She was going after all black men and saying to the black woman, why are you even affiliating with these men when they behave like this? And that's the part that I think gets under people's skin, and that's why a lot of people rejected what this woman was doing. But I don't know if she knew she was part of that bigger scheme. I think she was just a person who was concerned about the things that he's done, and I don't blame her. It's wrong. But I'm sorry, I just really don't think that these white feminists really support black women the way some of them claim that they do. They certainly don't support the black family. So that's all I want to say. I'd love to hear your point of view on this. You're welcome to disagree with me. I don't have a monopoly on the truth, nor do I claim to have it. But if your analysis, if your conversation cannot come with the kind of balance where you're not afraid to criticize all angles of it, then it's probably not valid. It probably means that you're doing what happens in American politics. You pick a team. The Democrats are you got the Crips and the Bloods. So you got the Democrats and the Republicans going against each other. And you have to pick a side. And when you pick a side, what it means is that your current side is pretty much allowed to escape all forms of criticism by you. Because once you turn to your fellow Democrat and say, no, you're doing this wrong, then you're going to get beat up for it. And that's why I don't play this political football. I encourage people to just seek the truth wherever it lies, even if it comes out of the mouth of Donald Trump, or comes out of the mouth of Hillary Clinton, or comes out of the mouth of somebody else who will never get a chance to run for president. Look for the truth. That's what I encourage you to do. All right, everybody. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Talk to you soon. Peace.